My first experience with a narcissist, a sociopath, and a psychopath was when I worked in a school for kids specifically who did very criminal and ferocious things, I'll say, for lack of a better clinical term. It wasn't until I began working in a juvenile delinquency center and in a charter school designed for kids with criminal histories that I realized what I was dealing with. Our research says that we cannot diagnose anybody under the age of 18 with a personality disorder. Neither can we diagnose them as bipolar or narcissist or even something as simple as borderline personality. Because of that, some of our young people are just labeled depressed and anxious or we can label it clinically as, this child has symptoms that aligns with borderline personality, or this child is showing personality disorder traits. In situations where that happens, these individuals grow up and they become individuals who are adults, and either they continue to get treatment in the system and they are properly labeled, or they age out of the system pretty much and they say, you know what, I don't want therapy, and then they become adults in our society that are dangerous. You know as well as I know, a dark empath has 3 specific traits: Machiavellianism, and I'm going to explain that in this video today, narcissism, and psychopathy. So in today's video, I'm going to go ahead and break this down for you a little bit so you can understand exactly what it is that you're dealing with right in your family. But before we jump in, let me just briefly introduce myself in case you are new to the channel. My name is Tamara. I'm internationally and I'm board certified in trauma therapy. I'm licensed in mental health. I specialize in treating children, teens, and families, as well as adults who are dealing with trauma right in my private practice. Let's jump in. I'm going to say about 11 years ago I worked with adults, and it wasn't really the experience that kind of frightened me away from working with adults necessarily, but I will say it is the experience of the sociopath, of the psychopath, and of the narcissist that really caused me to want to walk away. I was not comfortable sitting across from a narcissist who wanted to either one-up me all the time, wanted to dress and look like me, wanted to mock and mimic me, or wanted to stalk me and harm me. Those were just the behaviors that I wasn't fond of, and I experienced it all. And so I walked away. Once I walked away, I realized after working in a residential treatment facility, for children and adolescents, that some of the parents had interesting traits. And it was through my training in this residential center and many others that I had worked at after that, that I recognized a common pattern of behavior. A dark empath, especially if it's a parent or a family member, can really throw you. One of the reasons why is because a dark empath can come across as emotionally intelligent. They can also come across as being very empathic and caring. But I'm going to break down here in just a little bit why that is a trick and why these dark empaths are considered one of the most dangerous personalities. Think back to maybe a time with your parent or your family member where it appeared that you were loved, it appeared that you were praised, positively reinforced, you were embraced, but then somewhere along the line, that changed. You might remember your parent becoming angry, ferocious in their attitude and regard towards you, right? Maybe they were very authoritarian, meaning that they bossed you around and controlled you and believed in harsh parenting tactics. Maybe this parent decided that, they're just going to be angry with the world. And so therefore they exploited everyone. They became cynical. They began to manipulate and triangulate. Maybe they had what's called low agreeableness, meaning that they don't know how to conform and agree. They're always oppositional, defiant to the world. You may be also looking at maybe some history with this parent or family member that involved this superficial charm, right? They were charming and engaging, and you thought for sure that that was their character until you realize that they utilize it in an instrumental fashion. What I mean by instrumental is that the superficial charm, the callousness, the selfishness, it is all sometimes used as an instrument to manipulate or get what they want. And the superficial charm in the dark empath is what trips up most people, right? Because if you're smiling, if you're, engaging, if you're embracive, if you're, extroverted, if you are intelligent, if you're attractive, all of that comes across to other people as, as something that is prized and something that is desired in another human being. It's like, when we meet people in society, we have this checklist, right? And this checklist we keep before us. Nice smile, wonderful eyes, bubbly, really sweet, right? It's like checking things off the list every time we meet someone socially. Imagine what it's like when someone meets the dark empath, right? If you want to learn a little bit more about the dark empath, here's my thumbnail right here where I talked about it more extensively. And here's my other thumbnail right here where I talked about psychopathic parents. There's some dark empath stuff in there that might be very helpful. Go ahead and check those two out at the end of this video. So let me just review what the dark empath basically is, okay? Very briefly. So the dark empath has 3 specific traits that has been broken down over time by the field of psychology. And if you didn't see my live chat, I encourage you to go back and check that out. Here's the link right here, and here's the thumbnail right here. In that live chat, I really broke down what the dark empath is. But for the purposes of this video, let me define what it is. So the dark empath is an individual who has 3 specific traits. One is narcissism. So they are very selfish and opinionated and judgmental and, just very, very much like a sponge. They soak up all the attention. They want all the attention. They want the praise, right? They want the attention, or they try to one up you and steal from you, right? Or they push you out there. If you were their adult child, they push you out there and push you to keep going because it's going to reflect upon them as a good parent. There's always some kind of gain at the end of the tunnel for the dark empath who is narcissistic. Then there's also psychopathy, meaning that the individual is very, very calculating. They have a callous affect. They tend to have superficial charm. They tend to have the superior attitude. They are very, very entitled. And they may have this sense of grandiosity, like they're up here and you are down here. Whether you're their adult child, a family member, whatever, they see themselves up here and you down here. Now, the behavioral aspects of the dark empath can range, right? The range of behavioral problems is pretty large and it's pretty big, but I tend to see really deep symptoms in a dark empath that really centers around having erratic behavior, being very antisocial, and being very entitled. And so where most people kind of get thrown off is a dark empath comes across as emotionally intelligent, which is knowing what you want from them, knowing what you desire in another human being, knowing how to sit next to you and make you feel like they are truly listening to you, making you feel like there's this intense emotional connection, making you feel loved and wanted and desired. But the reality is that they are using what we call cognitive empathy. They intellectualize what it is that they know that you want, and they know how to really break down your walls by giving you exactly what you want. So maybe you had defenses way up here because of childhood trauma, because of other relationships, because of whatever, and the dark empath knows how to break those walls down and cause you to trust them and to desire them and to need them and to want them. Sometimes traumatic bonding grows out of the dark empath relationship. So if your father's a dark empath and he has the traits of narcissism and psychopathy and Machiavellianism, which I'm going to talk about next here, then they are dark empath father, and you are the needy one, and you love your dad, but he's also abused you at the same time. So you've got a dark empath father over here, and you're standing over here really wanting this wonderful dad. Well, what happens? You guys tend to bond, right? And so the trauma bond is created because dad sometimes makes you feel loved. Dad sometimes makes you feel wanted, right? Proud, happy, all of those emotions. The reality is that he knows the buttons to push on you. He knows exactly what it is that you desire in a father, and he can give you just the right ingredients to be convincing. You know, there's some research that suggests that there is something known as the dark core. And the dark core is a set of emotional and psychological traits that the dark empath tends to have at the core of who they are. And for the most part, that dark core really does kind of extend itself into various different places in that dark empath's world, right? So one part of the dark core would be, for example, Machiavellianism, that they kind of exploit you and they're cynical and they manipulate, right? But they get some kind of pleasure and emotional and psychological stimulation in making you feel this small and reducing you, right? And making you needy, but then hurting you, and watching you go through difficult things and, you know, feeling like they are being upheld or praised or positively reinforced, right? So there's the one part of the dark core is that Machiavellianism, right? They're kind of stimulated in a positive way at your demise. The other piece of that dark core is that these individuals tend to be very vulnerable to provocation. So if you provoke them, right, then you're probably going to see a lot in them that you're not going to like. One example of how they're going to appear if you provoke them is they have what is called either a narcissistic injury or an ego threat, okay? And once you threaten their core, the core of who they are, their ego, or there's a narcissistic injury that happens, they are going to be on a path of destruction to get you. It's not easy to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. You know, let's try to do things this way. Let's try to forgive each other. Let's try to make this work. They don't want to hear that. They are now offended. They are now hurt. They are deeply threatened at this point. And so it's called an ego threat or a narcissistic injury. You're also likely to, find this individual being very cognitively empathic, but there's no emotions. So this individual, a parent, a family member, is going to give you everything that they know that you want. And maybe you have opened the door too wide and you've told them what it is that you want, or they can see your vulnerabilities, right? Or they know your vulnerabilities, especially if you have a dark empath parent, and they use that against you cognitively. They give you everything that they know you want to hear, but you're never going to get that emotional connection ever. They also tend to be emotionally hazardous, right? So there's no safety built into the relationship with you and that family member, or you and that dark empath parent. There is emotional abuse. There's emotional manipulation. There's triangulation. There's mistrust. Honesty does not exist in the relationship. Maybe there's some relational jealousy, and maybe there's some relational aggression as well. All of these things makes the relationship with the dark empath emotionally hazardous. We also can't forget that these individuals tend to be callous. They tend to be grandiose. They think they're bigger and better than they really are. They really do have a callousness and a manipulative edge to the way that they engage in all relationships. You're likely to see a pattern because this is how they engage in relationships. And if you have a dark empath parent who has low agreeableness, then you're likely to see a lot of conduct issues like sexual assault or rape, really being emotionally and psychologically abusive to strangers, throwing their weight around, being, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, I can't think of the word, guys. I hate when that happens. It's right there and I can't remember it. Oh, I'll remember it when this video is over. I swear. You may also see a parasitic lifestyle with this individual. Here's the definition on the screen right here. These individuals just somehow drop all their evil and all their darkness in different parts of your life, and you're likely to feel abused, neglected, and manipulated. And let's not forget that these kind of individuals in a family system may also struggle with being on the same team as you. So what happens? They become bullies within the family or family mobbers, and they may also begin to stalk you in a lot of different ways. A lot of people do not realize that, stalkers can be family members, and, most people refer to them as family mobbers or bullies, or people who manipulate and triangulate within the family. But family members can stalk you. So this is likely to happen as well. And these kind of dark empath parents and family members may also build what is called alliances, and coalitions. And I talk about them right here in this video up here. You can check that out at the end of this video. But this is the dark empath parent and family member. And you can actually find these traits in most dark empaths. But for the purposes of this channel and the content that I usually put out there on this channel, this video is about these kind of parents and family members. It's really difficult having a life with people who are connected to you. In a previous live chat a couple weeks ago, the statement I made, I'm going to repeat it here too, because I think it stands here, which is, you don't expect your family members to be an enemy, right? We don't expect our family members to be the very enemy that we are trying to avoid. I encourage you to check these videos out right here to learn a little bit more about this. Thank you so much for being with me in today's video. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you want to get more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.